Ferrari may have built the only Monaco weapon that Mercedes cannot buy, copy, or fix in time. Because this is not just about Charles Leclerc loving the streets of Monte Carlo. It is not just about Lewis Hamilton bringing championship experience to Ferrari. And it is definitely not just another wing update. Ferrari's real advantage was hidden inside the car months before Monaco. A smaller turbo that reacts faster out of slow corners, and a flow turning device at the rear that can feed the wing and diffuser with extra energy exactly where this circuit demands grip. That sounds technical, but here is what it really means. Mercedes built a car to dominate the fast parts of Formula One. Ferrari may have built a car to destroy the one place where fast parts do not matter. No active aero, no real straights, no easy way for rivals to copy the rear architecture, and a possible gain of up to 0.2 per lap from one device alone, on a track where 0.2 can decide the entire race. Monaco did not give Ferrari a chance. It revealed the gamble they had been hiding all season. Subscribe to the channel. The first thing to understand is that Ferrari's Monaco advantage did not start in Monaco. It started months earlier, when the rest of the paddock looked at the new Formula One rules and chased the most obvious prize. Power, more speed on the straights, more energy deployment, more efficiency at high speed, more ability to stretch the car's legs when the road opened up. And for the first part of the season, that looked like the correct answer. Mercedes were devastating. Their power unit gave them the kind of straight-line strength that makes every rival feel trapped. Ferrari could fight in the corners, they could close under braking, they could show flashes of balance and grip, but once the car ahead reached the faster sections, the same painful pattern appeared. Mercedes pulled away. That is why Ferrari's early season looked frustrating from the outside. It was not that the car had no strengths. It was that its strengths were being drowned out by the wrong kind of circuits. The SF-26 looked alive in the corners. It looked planted when the track slowed down. It looked like a car that wanted rotation, traction, and rhythm. But Formula One does not reward hidden strengths unless the circuit gives them room to breathe. And before Monaco, Ferrari rarely had that room. Every time Leclerc or Hamilton gained something through a slow section, the straights took it back. Every time the chassis looked ready to fight, the power deficit reopened the gap. Every time Ferrari fans saw hope, the stopwatch reminded them that hope is not enough when another car can simply drive away. But here is the part that changes everything. Ferrari did not accidentally build a car that was strong in slow corners. They chose it. That choice began with the smaller turbo philosophy. On paper, that sounds almost backwards. In a new power unit era, when everyone is obsessed with efficiency and peak output, choosing a smaller turbo sounds like giving away a weapon before the fight even starts. And in some races, that is exactly what it looked like. A smaller turbo can limit peak power compared with a more aggressive high-speed concept. On circuits with long straights, that hurts. On tracks where active aero can open up and reduce drag, that hurts even more. But Ferrari were not only thinking about the biggest number on the straight, they were thinking about response. And at Monaco, response is everything. A smaller turbo can spool faster. That means it can build pressure more quickly when the driver gets back on the throttle. It means the power arrives with less delay. It means the car feels sharper when it exits the slowest corners on the calendar. Think of it like two athletes starting a sprint in a narrow hallway. One is bigger, stronger, and faster once fully moving. The other reacts instantly, launches cleanly, and changes direction without hesitation. On a long, open track, the bigger athlete wins. In a tight hallway, the quicker reaction can be the difference. That is Monaco. Monaco is not a place where a car spends half the lap unleashing power in a straight line. It is a place where the driver is constantly braking, turning, rotating, and asking for traction again. The lap is a chain of small launches, not one long run. And that is exactly where Ferrari's smaller turbo becomes dangerous. The same decision that made them vulnerable elsewhere suddenly becomes a weapon. When Leclerc exits the hairpin, response matters. When Hamilton tries to get clean drive out of slow corners, response matters. When a car needs to pick up throttle without snapping the rear loose, response matters. There is no time for delay. There is no space for hesitation. Because at Monaco, hesitation becomes lap time. That is why the FIA's active aero decision was so important. In 2026, straight mode became one of the biggest tools for teams with powerful cars. Open the aerodynamic elements in the right zone, reduce drag, and suddenly the car gains speed in a way that can make a cornering advantage disappear. Mercedes used that world brilliantly, but Monaco removes it. The circuit does not have a straight section long enough to meet the required activation threshold. So the cars run the weekend with the wings locked in their maximum downforce configuration. That sounds like a limitation for everyone, but it does not hurt everyone equally. For Mercedes, it takes away one of the key tools that help turn power into dominance. For Ferrari, it removes one of the ways rivals escape from them. That is the shift. The battleground moves away from peak speed and into the exact areas Ferrari had quietly been building toward. Low-speed corners, traction zones, driver confidence, rear stability. And once that happens, the SF-26 starts to look very different. Not perfect, not unbeatable, but suddenly logical. Every compromise begins to make sense. The smaller turbo, which costs Ferrari on power circuits, becomes a response weapon. The chassis, which looks strong but not enough elsewhere, becomes central. The car's cornering strength, praised even by rivals, becomes more than a consolation prize. It becomes the core of the weekend. And then comes the second layer, the device at the rear, the flow turning module. This is the part that makes Ferrari's advantage so hard for others to copy. Because it is not just a flap, is not a small upgrade another team can photograph on Friday and reproduce by the next race, is not a quick fix, is built into the architecture of the car. During testing, rival engineers noticed the unusual vane behind the exhaust outlet, positioned in the rear wing pillar area. Ferrari call it a flow turning device, and that name matters because it explains what the part is meant to do. It turns flow, it guides energy, it takes exhaust gases and helps direct them toward areas where the rear of the car can use them. That may sound like a tiny detail, but at Monaco, tiny details become giant, because the rear of the car decides whether the driver trusts the entry, the middle, and the exit of the corner. If the rear is stable, the driver attacks. If the rear feels uncertain, the driver leaves margin. And margin is the enemy of lap time. The flow turning module helps Ferrari in the exact place Monaco hurts every driver. The rear axle. It can support the diffuser exit airflow. It can help the underside of the rear wing. It can give the car more rear grip in slow speed conditions where the circuit demands absolute confidence. And this is where the whole story becomes mind-blowing. Ferrari's advantage is not one idea, it is a chain. The smaller turbo gives faster response. The chassis turns that response into usable traction. The flow turning module supports rear downforce. The FIA's active aero ban removes a major Mercedes weapon. The lack of real straights hides Ferrari's biggest weakness. Leclerc's home knowledge adds confidence. Hamilton's experience adds control. Every piece connects. That is why rivals cannot simply copy it. They can see the outside. They can study the photographs. They can understand the concept. But they cannot instantly rebuild the entire rear architecture that makes it work. The differential placement matters. The exhaust position matters. The wing pillar geometry matters. The crash structure matters. The diffuser shape matters. The whole back of the car has to be designed around the idea. Trying to copy only the visible vane would be like copying the final brushstroke of a painting and expecting to recreate the whole masterpiece. It does not work that way. Ferrari planned this earlier, and Monaco is the weekend where the plan finally gets the circuit it was waiting for. That is why this is so dangerous for Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren. They are not just facing a Ferrari setup. They are facing a Ferrari philosophy. A philosophy that looked compromised on faster tracks, but now lands on the one circuit where the compromises shrink and the advantages grow. This is the secret most people miss. A Formula One car does not need to be the best everywhere to be the most dangerous car on one weekend. It only needs the right strengths in the right place. And Monaco is the right place for Ferrari's strengths. No active aero to rescue rivals on the straights. No long straight to expose the smaller turbo. No easy overtaking to undo a qualifying advantage. No simple way to copy the rear concept. And no margin for teams that get the setup wrong. That creates enormous opportunity. But it also creates pressure. Because when a team has a rare advantage, wasting it hurts more. Ferrari know this might be their best chance before the middle of the season. They know Monaco could be the one race where the SF-26 is not fighting against the circuit, but being amplified by it. They know Leclerc has the emotional pull of a home race. They know Hamilton has been waiting for a weekend where Ferrari's power deficit does not define everything. And they know the paddock expects them to deliver. That expectation is dangerous, because Monaco gives nothing away. A strong car still needs a clean qualifying run. A fast driver still needs clear track. A brilliant concept still needs execution. One traffic mistake, one late call, one tiny brush with the wall, and the entire advantage can disappear. That is why Ferrari's secret weapon is not enough by itself. It creates the chance. It does not finish the job. And that is what makes this story so tense. Ferrari may have built the perfect answer for Monaco, but they still have to survive Monaco. They have to turn architecture into lap time into grid position into control into victory. And if they do, the meaning will be enormous. Because then the world will understand that Ferrari's strange early season trade-off was not a mistake. It was a bet. A bet that at some point the championship would reach a circuit where peak power mattered less than response, where active aero disappeared, where rear grip became everything, and where the car's most unusual idea could finally show its true value. That circuit is Monaco. And the most dangerous part for every rival is simple. Ferrari did not just bring this advantage to Monaco. They brought Monaco to the car. But the reason Ferrari's advantage becomes so dangerous is that it does not depend on one perfect condition. It builds strength in layers. That is what separates a normal Monaco setup from something far more threatening. Any team can add downforce for Monte Carlo. Any team can soften the car, adjust ride height, chase traction, and try to make the driver more comfortable over the bumps. That is standard. Ferrari's situation is different, because their strongest Monaco tools were not simply added for the weekend. They were already part of the car's identity. And that means the SF-26 is not trying to become a Monaco car. It already behaves like one. That is the detail rivals fear most. Because at Monaco, the best car is rarely the one with the biggest engine number. It is the car that can breathe inside the walls. The car that rotates without panic. The car that lets the driver pick up the throttle early without feeling the rear slide away. The car that gives confidence before the lap time appears. And Ferrari's car had been showing those qualities all season, even when the results did not fully reward them.